Oh, and I'm live. And this light is just, it's not looking great. Yeah, I don't know. It's this webcam. I've never actually used it before. And I'm seeing some kind of glare over here. You know what? Is that better? Um, what's up, everyone? I don't know if anyone's here yet or not. My name is Aaron Oster. I'm an author. I write game lit, fantasy, lit RPG, stuff like that. I am a self-published author. I have been a full-time author. That means that this is my actual job. I've been doing this since the beginning-ish of 2019. And I've been very fortunate. Hi, another crazy. Okay, and Sage, hello. Thanks for commenting. So tonight I thought, first of all, I don't normally like to do any work Saturday night. I'm Jewish. I keep Shabbat. I don't do work, and Saturday night I kind of like to roll it over and just not do any work until Sunday. But I couldn't really find a great time to do this during the week, so I figured, you know what, I'm off. I don't have a ton of things to do tonight, and I don't want to just sit, twiddling my thumbs in front of a screen. So I figured I'd get on here and answer some questions. Do a live read from my upcoming book, Age of Ancients, which is coming out on January 27th. I'm going to give you some more information on that in a bit. But first, I'd like to talk about why I'm doing a reread. Basically, what happened is that I submitted this to another channel. If you know who they are, fine. If you don't, that's also fine. And I'm going to be rereading the same chapter they did. The reason I'm going to be doing that is they kind of made me a little bit angry with the way they went about it. They sort of made a mockery of my book, I'd say. They threw in a whole bunch of swear words that are not in the book. And I generally just did not appreciate the way they treated the book. If anyone watched them, they would get a very, very different idea of what the book is about. This book, I specifically made PG, safe for all ages. So I just wanted to clear that up. Yes, I am a #1 best-selling author. Not I would like to hit the #1 best-selling, #1 bestseller in the Kindle store. As of now, I have been in the top 100 on the Kindle store a few times, which is very nice. We're aiming for the top 10 with this one. I would love to get it there. There are still advanced reader copies available, by the way. If anybody wants a free copy of the book, I'll be sending them out starting on the 18th. All you got to do is leave a review when it comes out, and you'll get a mention in the back of the book. Be forever immortalized. So I don't want to start reading right away. I think what I'm going to do first is just give a little bit of a brief overview of the scene and what's going on over there. Excuse me for a minute. So basically, Age of Ancients, the book, the series, follows a main character that some people might recognize from the Rise to Omniscience series. His name is Dabu. But this story does happen way, way, way before the original series, like 10,000 years before the original series. So the rules of the system that I laid out are going to be very different. And much more rigid. So in Rise to Omniscience, they were kind of like wishy-washy. I was still kind of getting in the swing of things and figuring it all out. Generally, the way I like to write my books is that I don't plan an entire series out ahead, right? Like normally when I start writing, I kind of have an idea of what it's going to look like by the time the series is over. But I don't go like meticulously planning out each and every single step of every single book before I even start book one. What I'll do is I will outline the first book, figure out the rules of the world that I'm going to be writing in, and from there I will write out the first book. And I find that, you know, developing the main characters and the main villain, which a lot of people won't see coming until the end of the book. So I had a lot of people, a lot of the alpha readers, people who read the book on my Patreon. I don't think a single one of them saw it coming. Like, I had a lot of comments like, "Oh my gosh, I did not expect this person to be a bad guy." It's something that I am very excited about. And yes, audio. So I don't actually have an audio producer picked out for this book yet, and that is because I want to wait and see what the sales look like. I still have to kind of decide on who I think is going to be a good fit. I haven't actually reached out to anyone, though I have already had some interest from people who produced my past books. The main issue that I found here is that, as you all know, Dabu is dark-skinned. I don't want to make any issues with anyone, so I'm just going to work and try and find the right fit. This is a fantasy book. It's not at all political. The whole point of fantasy is escapism, and yeah, who needs to see real world politics in a fantasy book? But anyway, I think before I even get started, I'm going to explain a little bit what game lit or lit RPG is for anyone who doesn't know. So, to put it simply, game lit or lit RPG is literature based off of a role-playing game, like old school Dungeons and Dragons. You know, role-playing games you can think of like Pokemon. It's I'm trying to think now. What are other good examples? If you ever played, like, you know, an Assassin's Creed game, or, you know, God of War, or if you ever played like a Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, those are the games that I really like playing. I love playing like single player, like action RPGs, like with a real fantasy feel, and that's where I get a lot of my inspiration. Along with a lot of, you know, other books that I've read, audiobooks that I listen to, anime. Yes, anime. I love anime. Anime that I've watched, fantasy TV shows. Like, you get a lot of it. I mean, even survival TV shows like Man vs. Wild. I've gotten so many of my ideas for scenes and settings from places like that. And if you're looking for inspiration, I mean, it's kind of all around you. So yes, World of Warcraft. I've never actually played World of Warcraft because I'm not like a PC gamer. I would like to try playing it one day, and I've also never actually played Dungeons and Dragons. It's something that's on my bucket list. Maybe after this whole pandemic is over, I can, you know, go out and look in the area, see if there's anybody around here if there are any like D&D players around here. But anyway, got off topic. So game lit or lit RPG is basically a progression fantasy, right? So you either go into a game or your world is based on a game. There are a few different types. There's like portal games where you go through a portal and you end up in another world, or there's VR lit RPG where, you know, you go into a game with virtual reality. It's like extremely immersive, just like the real world kind of thing. Or you can get sucked into the game and get trapped in there, like Sword Art Online, or Overlord. I love Overlord. If you haven't seen or read Overlord, you got to check it out. It is epic. And basically, the Rise to Omniscience series, and now this series, which is being called Shattered Kingdoms, the series is being called Shattered Kingdoms, the book is being called Age of Ancients, takes place in a game world. So the way that I have this set up is that, unlike in the other series, the whole magic system in this world is sort of in its infancy. So it's all new, like it only started about 15 years ago. So in order to get magic, or the, you know, magic of the world, in order to get access to that magic, you need to go challenge a trial. So you'd walk through a portal, and you would end up in a trial. And if you complete the trial, you would get access to your status. That is a screen or a box that only you can see, that gives you access to all of your main stats, your skills, and tells you how strong you've become. And only if you make it through to the other end and you clear it do you get to do you get to actually keep that power. So I'm going to read out Dabu's status for you guys first. And then I'm going to go into his motivations, why he's going there, without getting too into detail. And I'll set up the scene. I'm going to try and read it as best I can. I'm not a narrator, so you'll have to forgive me if it's terrible. All right, so his status is basically set up pretty much the same as Rise to Omniscience. And I'm going to go through it step by step. So the first thing you see on Dabu's status is his name. Name Dabu. His ability type is a mage ability. So in this world, you can have a super ability, which gives you greater physical strength, better endurance, makes you faster, physically stronger. And then you have a mage ability, which makes you mentally stronger. It helps you learn faster, retain knowledge, and instead of needing to make physical contact, your attacks typically end up being more like spells and range. Now, both have skills, and both are equally as good. They each have their advantages and disadvantages. But Dabu specifically has a mage ability, and I'm going to get into why exactly he has a mage ability to start with a bit later. So at this point in the story, at the point of the chapter that I'm going to read, he is at rank 1. So you start at rank 0 when you come into the trials, right? And whenever you fulfill a certain amount of, whenever you gather a certain amount of experience or energy from defeated enemies, your rank will rise. And every time your rank goes up, you become stronger, you become faster, your stats improve. So right after the rank, I have the energy to next rank. And that tells him how much energy he is going to need to collect to get to the next rank and become stronger. So at this point, he's got 20 out of 200 energy to his next rank. Excuse me. Now, moving on to his ability, I was looking for something kind of unique and interesting because I found that with my last series, I didn't want to go so much elemental as I wanted to do something that's like unique to the character. So what I ended up doing was I named the ability Soul Sphere. And basically the idea is that he can control a certain amount, his skills within a certain sphere of influence around himself. That means, top, bottom, sides, he can control everything within a certain distance of himself. And the stronger he becomes, the wider that distance becomes. So moving on now, his MP, that's his mana points. He's got 90 mana, and his regeneration is 0.8 mana per second. So mana is basically it's basically the fuel, the power that gives his skills, their juice, so to speak, right? So if he wants to use the skill, he's got to use a certain amount of mana for him to be able to use a skill. And if he's got no mana, he can't use any skills. Moving on now, we're going to go to the individual stats or attributes, as I like to call them in my series. The attributes basically being the 5 things that make up his fundamental being, right? So there's strength, there's agility, constitution, intelligence, and wisdom, right? Strength, I've made it a little bit different in this book than Rise to Omniscience, and strength basically makes you physically stronger. That means, if you have a hard time picking up a rock at rank 1, you got a strength of 4. At rank 5, you got a strength of 10. You'll have a much easier time picking that rock up. Also, for strength determines the amount of ki, which is the type of energy that supers have. Your total strength determines the amount of ki that you have as a super. Each point gives you 10. Agility is also at 4 for him. That is how quick he is and how fast his ki regenerates. Constitution is basically how healthy you are physically, how much damage you can soak up, how strong your skin is, and basically to break the first barrier, right, is 10 points. Once you hit 10 points, you get to be like a fit, strong person, right? An average person starts off with around 5 and everything. A fit, strong person will be at around 10, and 25, you're already at superhuman levels. Like at 25, you cannot physically, no matter how strong you are as a human, you cannot physically be that strong once an attribute is at 25. Now moving on to intelligence. Now between supers and mages, like I said, supers will have more physical stats. That means that their physical traits like strength and agility will increase. They will grow faster than that of a mage, and vice versa with intelligence and wisdom for mages versus supers. So Dabu's intelligence here is 9, so he's right under the cusp of hitting that 10 mark. Intelligence is basically the power that his abilities will have. So just like strength gives the super, their physical power and increases the power of their physical skills, intelligence will increase the power of their mage skills. So however strong they are as a mage, whatever skills they use, they will become stronger the higher his intelligence goes. Finally, wisdom he has at 8. And that, like I said, it will regenerate a tenth of that, so 0.8 intelligence. He will generate an eighth of 8/10 of a point every second. So say he uses 10 MP for an attack, it will start regenerating at 8/10 of a point per second as soon as he does. And now, as I said, intelligence, he has 9 points of intelligence, so he has 90 mana points. Now we're moving on to his skills. I gave him 2 skills to start off, and he will be getting more as the book goes along, and they will be growing stronger. But I feel like I need to explain how the skills work before we actually get into the scene. So the first skill is called Ember Blade, and the way it basically works is he breathes out, and these small embers, like you get like sparking up from a fire, kind of float out into the world around him within his sphere of influence. And whenever he wants to, he can just concentrate on an area, turn it into a blade, and cut at something so long as it is within his sphere of influence. And as soon as he uses that blade, it costs him 10 mana points. Spark Field, I had an idea. It's sort of like landmines. So he basically summons a whole bunch of small sparks, again, within his sphere of influence, within his field of influence, and he can bury them underground. He can push them out in front of them. He can position them, strategically so that they'll go off if someone steps on them or if he throws something at it. Morgan, the main character of my other series, is like this physically powerful, overwhelming, like kind of almost psychotic at the beginning before he sort of like mellows out and calms down. Dabu is a lot more human. He isn't so okay with just straight up murder. He even has a hard time like killing like animals. So I thought that would be sort of an interesting dynamic with this character. So basically, leading up to this scene, the chapter that I'm going to read for you is called "Fight or Die." So leading up to this chapter, Dabu is already inside the trials. Now, a few things about Dabu: he's got pretty bad asthma, and I thought I'd throw that in there because character flaws. And I thought, how would you overcome something? I have asthma. I know a lot of people have asthma. A lot of people struggle with it. And while a lot of people the overall thought of asthma is that it's just not such a big deal, it's kind of a big deal. And I thought that I would give him this sort of handicap to start off with to make the trials just a little more challenging. Now, he does have a sort of medieval version of an inhaler. It's basically this bag of herbs that he carries with him. The problem is that if he uses it too much, it poisons his blood. So he has to be very careful with how much he uses it and in what quantities. So we're gonna get right into the story. So basically, to set the scene up, Dabu has just come across a big beastie. If you've seen the cover of the book, Age of Ancients, you will see that there's this gigantic, like, Arctic Carnotaurus. Carnotaurus is one of my favorite dinosaurs, and I think it's really just underutilized. Yeah, here's a picture of the cover. It's backwards, but there you can see sort of what the Carnotaurus looks like, and this is basically going to be the scene that I am reading for you. Oh, excuse me. So He's basically run into a Carnotaurus. He is exhausted already. And he has dove into a lake to try and get away with it. The only problem is that the lake is freezing cold, and he right now he has a choice. He can either stay in the lake and wait to just basically die of frostbite, or he can go back to the shore and try and face off against this beast. So just to clarify as to what type of beast this is, right? Dabu right now is at rank 1. This Arctic Carnotaurus is at rank 4. So it's pretty much suicide for him to take this thing on. At rank 4, his attacks are going to do minimal damage because the Carnotaurus' skin is going to be tougher. It's going to resist his attacks a lot more. The Carnotaurus will hit harder because it is a super type beast. That means that physical attacks will do much more damage. And Dabu, as someone who's got asthma, will have a much harder time avoiding this beastie. And also, to clarify, his range is only about 5.5 feet. So even if he closes within 5.5 feet, the Carnotaurus has a pretty good chance of hitting him. So I'm going to start with Chapter 11, Fight or Die. Get one more drink before we start. Thank you, everyone, for coming, by the way. I'm really excited for this. So here we go. Fight or die. He stumbled onto the shore just 4 minutes later, his entire body trembling as it tried to warm itself. Dabu began jumping up and down, breathing into his hands as he watched the Carnotaurus's walk turn into a sprint as it dashed around the side of the lake, making straight for him. His teeth were chattering so hard that it was hard to think, and Dabu didn't think he'd ever been this cold before. Yeah, I realize I threw the word think in there a whole lot, but that's what editors are for. She will fix it. The coldest Shuka Basin ever got was at night, and even then, it could be called warm at best and scorching at worst. Feeling this level of cold for the first time was seriously messing with him. It was hard to think, but with the approaching threat, Dabu knew there was no time. He could spend the next 20 seconds getting warm and preparing himself for death, or he could use the time to try and buy himself some more. He used Sparkfield and scattered a handful of sparks underground, then focused the remaining ones in the air around him. Normally, he might have tried to predict how hard the blast would throw the Carno, but right now it was all he could do to protect himself. Blue embers flowed from his lips, scattering around him and enveloping him in a field of color. In the early morning light, the embers glowed on the surface of the water and sending dazzling patterns reflecting back at him. Dabu barely had any time left, so he continued hopping up and down, waiting for the Carno to meet him. It charged him head-on, lowering its head, mouth open wide to swallow him whole. Okay, here we are. Okay, Dabu dove to the side as it hit 2 sparks simultaneously, one underground and one above. The Carno was thrown to one side, but barely stumbled, shaking its head and focusing back on him. It growled, took a step, and set off another spark. Its left foot was thrown into the air, and it staggered again, only this time it moved right into one of Dabu's ember blades, the sparks coalescing into a large knife and slashing at the beast's ankle. So basically, forgot to say this, Dabu's strategy here is to try and basically cripple the dinosaur, cut one spot in its leg long, badly enough that it can't chase him and that he can outpace it and get away. All right. There was a small spray of blood as the blade burst apart, but when the Carno restored its balance, Dabu couldn't detect so much as a hint of a limp. He cursed, dashing for the tree line, which was now only a few yards away, and the Carno followed, roaring in annoyance. There were a couple more blasts as his buried sparks exploded, but judging by the thundering footfalls, they hadn't even slowed it down. Dabu threw a look over his shoulder, screamed, then swerved hard to his right. The Carno's jaws slammed down next to him with a loud snap, and Dabu felt the wind from those jaws. If that thing managed to sink its teeth into him, his puny limbs would come off with little to no resistance. As he'd noted before, the Carnotaurus couldn't take sharp turns very well, and ended up running several paces more before slowing to correct its trajectory. Dabu knew he couldn't run, though. His lungs wouldn't allow him that luxury, and if he went for the sack again, he might live, but not for long. He dashed around the tree, placing his back to it, and tried to calm his breathing. The Carno came barreling around, slamming its oversized head into the tree with a loud crack, and forcing Dabu to abandon his makeshift shelter. The tree toppled, leaving him to face the beast with nothing between them. Dabu used Sparkfield again, then tried to force all of them into a single spot in front of him, but the skill resisted. He couldn't force more than 2 sparks into close proximity with one another, and as the Carno charged, he just scattered them before him and leapt to the side. The explosion threw the Carno back, staggering into another tree and finally causing it to lose its balance. With another crack, the tree came down, with the Carnotaurus right on top. Scrambling to his feet, Dabu breathed out, allowing the embers to flow around him. Then, in a supremely stupid move, ran straight toward the fallen Carno. His MP was running low, but he had 3 Ember Blades in him before he would need to wait for his regeneration to catch up. At rank 1, he now replenished 0.8 MP per second, which might not have seemed like much more than the 0.6 from before, but every little bit mattered in a situation like this one, and Dabu was supremely grateful for even that small increase. He skidded to a halt once he was within range and aimed an Ember Blade at the beast's foot. It was thrashing around a lot, though, and he only managed to nick one of its toes. Dabu cursed silently, then tried again, but the beast's tail flicked out, slamming into his chest and tossing him off his feet. Dabu felt his ribs creak under the force of that blow. The air was knocked from his lungs as he flew, arms flailing about him. When he finally came down, though, the worst came to pass. He landed badly on one of his ankles, and with a cry of pain, he collapsed to one side. The embers fluttering around him vanished in an instant, and his head rang as it smacked into the ground a half-second later. The Carnotaurus righted itself, its body glowing faintly red as sharp, glowing protrusions grew from its spine and over its claws. Crystallized water, just as before, only this time it clung to the beast. More than that, Dabu could see the ground around its feet beginning to freeze as well, and the chill which he'd been fighting back against since he'd left the lake returned in force. Dabu shivered, forcing himself back to his feet and ignoring the agony from his ankle and the burning in his chest. He could feel something wet trickling down the side of his head, but he ignored it as he began hobbling away, ignoring the irony of his predicament. Sorry, just give me a second. Man, props to the narrators. I mean, this stuff is not easy, which is why I don't narrate my own books. Man, okay. Here we are. The Carnotaurus, sensing its prey was injured, began moving in more slowly, not giving him the chance to try pulling a sharp turn to try and escape. Dabu could feel tears at the corners of his eyes, his breaths coming in great, sobbing gasps. He knew he was finished, but his mind railed against that. He couldn't die. Not here. Not now. Not after leaving and promising himself to return. Not when his mother and sister were still stuck beneath the Puru's heels. Just for clarification, the Purus are the name of a gang that sort of control his village. It's in the blurb, so no spoilers there. All right. He stumbled, falling to his hands and knees. He didn't have the strength to pull himself upright, but he forced himself to turn and face the beast, scrambling back, still trying to escape. That was until he felt the trunk of a tree press into his back. The Carno advanced, head lowered, Head lowered, breath steaming in the air and extending a freezing aura around itself. Dabu briefly wondered if this beast could kill the Purus for him. Then it opened its mouth and roared in his face. Dabu felt the freezing air from its breath, rank like death, wash over him. He stared into that cavernous mouth filled with teeth and felt defiant. Something, screaming. He used Ember Blade, aiming for the roof of that mouth and trying to pierce all the way up to its brain. The Carno roared in pain, whipping its head back as blood sprayed from its open mouth. But as Dabu tried to rise, the beast's tail whipped around again, slamming into his chest. This time, with the tree pinning him in place, Dabu's ribs didn't stand a chance. He felt several of them snap in a series of audible cracks. He screamed in agony as the burning pain washed through him, and in response to the trauma, his lungs seized up, refusing to allow him to breathe. The Carnotaurus turned back, blood streaming from between its jaws as Dabu slumped to one side, mouth agape, unable to pull in so much as a single breath. Oh, what? Okay, there we go. Dabu loomed over. Oh, sorry. I keep breaking the immersion. Here we go. Death loomed over him, and Dabu was unable to do anything at all. This was it. He was finished. Dabu felt despair try to claim him as the beast's jaws cracked wide. But despite the voice in his head screaming at him to get up and fight, his body was no longer willing to cooperate. A figure fell from the tree as the Carno drew closer, landing on its back and slashing down with a glittering violet something. The Arctic Carnotaurus roared in pain as a deep line of red appeared in its skin, and it whirled, trying to buck the figure from its back. But the person, a tall, athletic girl, clung to one of the crystallized spines and hung on. Okay, guys, I cannot do voices, but I will do my best attempt at a girl's voice, and please don't butcher me for it. Get up! She yelled, her voice sounding urgent. I can't take this thing down on my own. Terrible, I know. In that moment, Dabu felt his hope rekindled. He thought he was dead, and now the gods had gifted him with a miracle. Although he knew he was being stupid, he brought the sack of herbs to his lips and inhaled. Pain, burning, horrible pain shot through him, both from his broken ribs and the toxic effects of the herbs, finally taking their toll. The Carno leapt into the air, landing and spinning to try and dislodge the girl. Several more trees buckled and snapped, shattering like dry twigs on a hot day, but she hung on with dogged determination, slamming the glittering purple spike that Dabu could now see was extending from her arm into the beast's back. More blood sprayed from the Carno, though on a beast that large, it barely even registered. Coughing and tasting blood, Dabu rose to his feet, blue embers flowing out and surrounding him. The Carno leapt into the air. Dabu pulled in his remaining sparks, which had thankfully remained present, moving two right beneath its feet as it came down, then scattered the rest to either side where it would likely fall. Oh, man, that was a long sentence. It was not easy moving that many at once, it was not easy moving that many at once, and that quickly, and it caused Dabu's already aching head to throb even harder. Still, he did manage it, and all in the span of a couple of heartbeats. "Let go!" he yelled, hoping the girl could hear him. Thankfully, it seemed she did, because as the Carno came down, she leapt backwards, turning a somersault in the air, brown hair streaming behind her in a curtain. She slammed the purple spike into a tree, her feet landing squarely on the trunk and keeping herself from falling. The Carno was blown off its feet as soon as it landed, falling to its left side and setting off 4 of the sparks Dabu had planted there. The girl ripped her spike from the tree, dropping on the fallen Carnotaurus and slamming the purple spike down toward one of its eyes. The beast thrashed, and she missed, the spike sinking into its throat instead. One of the beast's little arms hooked into her back, and with a jerk, the girl was thrown clear, her back slamming into a tree. Dabu winced as she was bent almost backward before falling to the ground. Clearly, those arms had far more power in them than he'd realized. Dabu wanted nothing more than to run over and check to see if she was okay, but the opportunity she'd provided was simply too good to pass up. So he used his last Ember Blade, picturing it as a wedge, and driving it directly into the hole the girl had created. This time, having already been weakened, the skin gave way, and the triangular blade slashed the Carnotaurus's throat wide open. The beast roared, the sound burbling from its open throat as blood fountained out from the wound. It thrashed about, its foot catching Dabu as he tried to back out of range and tossing him to the ground. The air was once more forced from his lungs, and his left arm, trapped beneath him in the fall, broke in several places. The pain was so horrific that it was all he could do to just not to pass out, as doing so would mean almost certain death. Through his blurry vision, he saw the Carnotaurus trying to regain its feet, only for the mystery girl to come charging in. Her back was twisted at an odd angle, and it pained Dabu to even see an injury that bad. It didn't seem to stop her, though, as she rammed the purple spike into the Carno's left eye, driving it in until her fist was pressed up against the socket. The beast roared again, thrashing its head and tossing her back. She hit the ground and rolled several times before coming to a stop several feet away. The Carnotaurus tried to rise one last time, blood gushing from its open throat and the torn eye. It managed to get 1 foot flat on the ground. It trembled for several agonizing seconds, then fell flat as the beast crashed to the ground. Dabu could feel unconsciousness trying to claim him, but he continued struggling against its embrace. Each breath was horribly painful, and he felt as though he had inhaled shards of sharpened stones. The bones in his chest ground together painfully, and yet, somehow, he found the strength to push himself up on his right arm and knees and began crawling over to the Carno. The beast was still breathing, but it would soon die, and Dabu knew it would soon die. Dabu knew that this was his only chance at survival, and probably that of the girl who'd saved him. Was in this creature's core. She had to be at least a rank higher than him, though, so he sincerely hoped that this creature's core would have enough for both of them, if that were even possible. Each crawling a step? That doesn't make sense. Must be a typo. Oh, no, it makes sense. Each crawling step he managed to move was pure agony, yet as he reached the Carnotaurus's head, he felt someone push him down. So close, Dabu thought. It seemed his luck had finally run out. The girl was going to take the core all for herself and leave him here to die. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So that is the end of the chapter. Man, that was not easy to read. My sides are hurting. I mean, if there are any narrators in the chat, tell me if that's something you got to deal with. Your sides hurting when you read. Anyway, to explain why he's going for the core, the cores in the trial, as soon as you reach the next rank, obviously when you're challenging beasts and dangerous animals, and you have no way of healing yourself, the chances of failing the trials are very hard. So one of the things in the trial is that once you rank up, all of your injuries, all the injuries that you accumulated during the previous your battles or anything like that, they are immediately healed. Any fatigue, any injuries, internal, external, anything like that, they will all be restored. So getting to that core is his only chance of survival, and the girls too. Um, so I really hope you guys liked that chapter. If you want to be part of the advance read, you do get your name stuck in the back of the book, and I will also be mailing out signed postcards to anyone who leaves a review. So if you want a postcard of the cover, signed and sent to you by yours truly, and you want a free book, a week and a half-ish early, I'm sending out the ARC copies on the 18th, and the book is coming out on the 27th. So, excuse me again. So if you want, if you want to be part of the ARC read, send me a message on Instagram, Facebook. Gosh, I'm sorry, I keep burping for some reason. Just send me a message, shoot me an email. I think it's down there. If not, it's aaron@aaronosterauthor.com. If you want to be part of the ARC read, I am making it sort of a limited thing. So get in quickly if you're interested. I've still got a bit of time for questions. My bedtime isn't for like another 15 minutes. So if anyone's got any questions, just type them down below. I will do my best to answer while you're all typing. We've got some exciting news coming up. If you're part of the channel, if you're watching, as you all know, I have been, looking for my first author to help publish under my self-publishing company, GFS Publishing. So I have been looking for my first author, and I think that I'm going to offer it to one of my subscribers, because I know that a lot of my subscribers are either aspiring authors or struggling authors or authors that are looking to expand or try and get their names out there, or they just don't know what they're doing and they need some help. So I think that's what I'm going to be doing. I'll give more details out in the next video or the one after or whatever. But if that sounds interesting, you'll want to be subscribed. Okay, so starting, first question from Sheva Duskus. Who is your favorite character in each series? Okay, so starting off with Rise to Omniscience, I've got to say that my favorite character would have to be, gosh, this is so tough. I'm going to say Catherine. I like Catherine just because she isn't the stereotypical sort of princess. She is kind of like underrated a bit in the series, and she sacrifices a lot for her people. She goes against her father. She goes against pretty much her entire country, and she sacrifices just everything to ensure that her people have better lives. So Rise to Omniscience is Catherine. In the rules, I love Baron Von Tweet. I have a bird whose name is Baron Von Tweet, and he is a horrible, spoiled little brat, and that is who I based him off of. He's a talking bird. If you haven't read the rules yet, you like satire and stuff like that. It's a little racy. There's a lot of like 4-letter words in there, but if you don't mind that, you don't like fourth wall breaks and tropes and stuff like that, now go check it out. The omnibus, all three. You can get it as an ebook for just $6.99. It's like 200 or close to 300,000 words, I think, something. It's very big. Or you can get, the omnibus audiobook. It's like over 30 hours. For this series, I'm not going to say who my favorite character is yet, because you will meet him and you're going to understand. I'm just going to say that my favorite character is not one of the main characters. My favorite character in this series is not the main character. I know that I like Dabu a lot, and his story is very interesting, and his character is very interesting, but there is another character who I really like. What other series did I like? Right, the Land of the Elementals. Man, that was my first series. And my favorite series in Land of the Elementals, gosh, this is tough. I'm not going to cop out and say that it's Arbor or Akaria or, man, I don't know. You know what? I'm going to throw it out there and say Silver. He's kind of cool. He's got like a mysterious vibe. He's super powerful. Yeah, I was just going to go with him. And I'm not going to talk about Animal Kingdom or Palti Planet because those are kind of failures. All right. So next question from Sage. Are Azure and Gold the same person? No, they are not the same person. Buryoku and the Rise to Omniscience series, they're in completely different universes. So different planets, different universes. You might recognize one name or another at some point, but the two storylines are completely unconnected. Okay, if another from Shevaduskus, if you could transport into a series of your own, which would you choose? Oh, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. Man, I don't know. As an author, you can't really choose a favorite. It's so hard because I really like the Rise to Omniscience world because it's got the video game vibe, and I've always wanted to do like SAO, like Sword Art Online, like be trapped in a video game world. I think would be so cool. But you know, on the other hand, like the world of Land of the Elementals it's so amazing. And Buryoku, I mean, I'm a martial artist. I love all things fighting. I'm a big MMA fan. You know, I've done Krav Maga for several years. You know, self-defense. I'm like this close to a black belt. I moved though, so when this whole pandemic thing is over and we can start going back to, you know, fighting dojos and stuff like that, I'm going to find somewhere around it that does Krav Maga and work on getting that black belt. But I mean, the Buryoku world, like cultivation, man, it's so tough. I don't know. I'm just going to say that I can't choose. Cop out answer. I just can't. Here we go. All right. Catherine and Morgan are the best. Another crazy rear end or donkey, whichever you choose. The parrot. Okay, here we go. So I decided to start waking up early. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't read your name. Subho Egypt Sharabordi. I am butchering that. I'm sorry. Hey Aaron, what's up? This is unexpected. I decided to start waking up early. I managed to get out. Yes. Starting early is the best thing I have ever done. I wake up at about 5 o'clock every morning. I start writing between 6 and 6:30, and by 9, 10 o'clock, I have banged out all of my writing for the day. It's very, very easy for me to focus early in the morning. There's no distractions. I haven't been up for long, so my mind is fresh. So yeah, if you're going to write, little tip, do it early in the morning because with nobody else awake, you have very little to distract you. Have the ancient cavern beasts reached Cyan or Elemental? This is from Sage. This is for the Buryoku series. I am not going to be giving any of that away. You will find out more in the 5th book. I'm almost done writing it. Then it's going to go out to the beta, Mare, and then we're going to publish it. Okay. Okay. If this one is from Naftali Ostracher. If Scooby and the gang were transported into any of your series, what do you think would happen? Oh my gosh, I would love that. That would be amazing. Like, for those of you who don't know, if you haven't seen my videos, I've got a lot of Scooby-Doo t-shirts. I love Scooby-Doo. I grew up with them. I still watch them to this day. I can't help it. Gosh, if they were transported into any of your series, what would you think? What do you think would happen? In all honesty, they would probably get destroyed like really quickly. Like, you know, Velma might survive for a bit. Shaggy and Scooby might because they're cowards. They could run and hide for long enough. Fred is a little too brave, so he'll probably get like slaughtered right away. Daphne might survive. Who would live the longest? I don't know. But man, I would love to see like the Scooby Gang like do a dungeon raid. That would be epic. Your beard is amazing. I wish I could run my fingers through it. Well, thank you. it was much longer back at the beginning of COVID. It was like, letting the COVID beard grow out, but it was getting too long to sort of like be manageable. I think I'm gonna have to give it a trim down in a bit. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm getting a lot of compliments on my beard. Thank you very much for that. Okay. All right. If there are no other questions, but Shaggy was only ever seen with 10% of his power. That is true. If Shaggy went Ultra Instinct, he would probably destroy everyone. I mean, Shaggy never uses his full power, as we all know. I mean, all you got to Google is Shaggy Ultra Instinct, and you'll really get to see what Shaggy can do. So I think we're pretty much done, unless anybody else has got any other questions. I think we're going to go. So tomorrow I'm going to be uploading a video from Sunscorch, talking about my publishing process on that book, the sales, how many books I sold, all that other fun stuff. So until next time, keep being super. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all of your support. You can check out all the links in the description for all of my cool stuff. Go check out, go check out my website. Go check out whole bunch of other stuff. Everything else I've got, it's all down there. So have an awesome night or day wherever you are, and I'll see you all next time.